To unpack these statistics, it must be noted that in terms of contribution to foreign direct investment, has experienced a boom with over $10 billion investment recorded since privatization of the mines. According to the Zambia Development Agency, in 2019, the mining sector sectoral contribution with actualized investments worth $18.8 million, representing 34.5%. From a trade perspective, copper exports accounted for a staggering 77% of Zambia's. This reflects the stalled efforts aimed at diversifying the economy. In terms of employment, the overall employment contribution of the mining sector remains low, with only 73,203 people employing only 2.4%, according to the 2019 labor force survey. Recently, the COVID-19 pandemic has aggravated Zambia's microeconomic instabilities. Depressed commodity markets initially pushed copper prices down about 14% in 2020. This had a significant knock on Zambia. This demonstrates the important role that the mining sector plays in Zambia's economy. However, despite the growth and increased investment towards the mining sector, over the years, there's been limited meaningful economic growth and development to the Zambian citizens. Furthermore, the country has not done much to deliberately leverage mining revenues for the diversification and growth of key priority sectors like health, agriculture, negatively hampered the government's efforts to address the poverty and inequality challenges the country faces. In today's episode, we focus on discussing the key role of Zambia's mining sector, meaningful economic growth and development for the country, as well as the roles that the various stakeholders, such as the government, companies, civil society, and citizens must play to achieve this. To discuss more on this, in the studio I have Isaac Mwaipopo, who is the Executive Director from the Center for Trade Policy and Development. Good morning, Isaac.
Good morning, Ambassador, and good morning to those that are tuned in.
How's your leave?
It's been a busy week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Keeping safe?
Keeping safe, of course.
Very good. Also on the program, Mando Chundaponde, a 23-year-old social and economic accountability youth activist who is currently program officer at Publish What You Pay Zambia. Good morning.
Good morning, Ambassador, and thank you for having me.
You're keeping safe also?
Keeping safe, masking up, sanitizing.
These are different and strange days.
Very indeed.
Absolutely. But we'll get by. God is great.
Amen.
And also joining us, my phone letter is in Samamusonda Kins, who is the Executive Director at Care for Nurture in Zambia. By the way, this is a syndicated broadcast on Capital FM 99.7, sponsored by Oxfam in collaboration with Hot FM 87.7. The program will be rebroadcast across the country in partnership with our strategic partner community radio station, Breeze FM in Eastern Province, Lukulu FM in Western Province, Radio Chikuni in Southern Province, Radio Mano in Northern Province, Radio Ichengelo on the cupboard, Solwezi FCC Radio in Northwestern Province, Luapula Radio in Luapula Province, and Power FM in Central Province. Right. We start with you, Isaac. Could you tell us briefly about the Center for Trade Policy and Development, CTPD, and the work you do on mining and overall natural resource governance?
Thank you so much, Ambassador. The Center for Trade Policy and Development is a local economic think tank that has been working with like-minded civil society organizations to promote the use of trade and investments as an alternative or viable tool towards human development. So we have been working in places like Sinazongwe, places like Solwezi, trying to raise awareness on issues pertaining to how they can efficiently use resources that they are endowed with. Key among the issues that we have been doing in some of these communities include policy research, also working with local authorities to put in place mechanisms through which the local communities can benefit from the resources that they are endowed with. Some of the resources that have been at the center of our focus include gold, minerals like copper, and in some of these places we also have precious minerals that we've tried to shed light on how we can take advantage of these resources to not only benefit the people that are extracting them, but also benefit the communities that are hosting these resources.
How important are members of the community in these areas where mining is taking place?
Well, the members of the community are very critical to this process, because if you look at the process of mining, it has devastating effects. There's land degradation. In some of these communities we work in, there are also challenges related to displacement of the communities themselves. If we are to discuss development without leaving anyone behind, then it begins by also agreeing in terms of how the common resources that these people are endowed with are actually benefiting all those that are extracting these resources. Hence the need to amplify the voices of the communities that are hosting these mining investments.
Let's talk about the ministry that drives the mining sector. This is the Minister of Mines. How do you relate to the ministry?
We have a working relationship with the Ministry of Mines, and this relationship is often defined by a number of areas of interest. Some of the areas include for civil society organizations like ourselves and Publish What You Pay to provide technical advice through information that we collect through the evidence that we generate, but also providing a lens or a perspective with regards to the views of the communities that are hosting these investments. Take, for instance, more recently, the Ministry of Mines had commissioned the process of revising the Mines and Minerals Act of 2015. That in itself provides a platform for the community to provide input into what they think should constitute the Mines and Minerals Act, so that it reflects their aspirations and needs. And if you look at the times that we are living in, a time when the government is highly to put a straight envelope of the its resources to process. So in such times, civil society organizations play a key in convening platforms that is gathered, and it is then submitted for consideration to the ministry.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Isaac, Zambia is the second largest producer of copper on the continent and seventh in the world. Why has the country failed to utilize this natural resource to reduce poverty, which the country continues to grapple with 65 years, of after gaining political independence?
Well, it's a very sad story, actually. We have been singing about for quite a long time. We have been mining for over 100 years, like you rightly indicated at the beginning. And in these over 100 years, the expectation that the country should have matured enough, the country should have gained enough experience that it to actually meaningfully benefit from the resources that it is endowed with. but it's still a very sad story in the sense that we still haven't, but we can speak with a high sense of comfort that we are meaningfully benefiting from the resources that we are endowed with. This can be witnessed even from the changes that we have made in the last few years. If you look at the way we are governing the sector when it comes to taxation, we have changed our tax regime more than 4 times in the last 10 years. That in itself gives you the level that exists. We haven't gotten to that point where we feel in terms of highlighting some of the factors that have hindered us or affected our ability to exploit the opportunity that we have through the resources. In two. In the first part, we have the historical aspect. There was a time around the 1970s to the 1990s when we had decided to nationalize the mines. We thought that we would have utmost control of our resources therein, because our production was not meant for economic. Predominantly, our production was meant for service. That's why you saw a lot of roads being constructed through entities such as ZCCM. You found that health facilities were well financed simply because the resources that were coming from the investment were directly channeled towards service provision, and it for us to sustainably run the mines. As a result, we opted to privatize, but during the privatization not happened, that would have guaranteed benefits for the ordinary Zambian. Key among these things we have not diversified. We've continued to depend on the exploitation and exportation of copper. Could be that there's now a conversation growing around the exploitation of gold. We are yet to see how we'll make use of that. Volumes, they have been dominated by copper. The other thing is that we lack a robust tax regime that would ensure meaningful for us as a country. As a result of that, we've kept on changing with hope that we'll arrive at something that will give us meaningful benefits. I think one other thing that this country speaks to information asymmetry. This speaks to the level of and in terms of logical gathered data that helps us to have a better understanding of the depth of the resources that we have. Predominantly, this has been left in the hands of the private sector, the foreign companies that have been investing. As a result, there is a possibility that you can doubt the credibility of the information that we continue to be provided on how our reserves are, the quality of the grades or the reserves that we have. So some of these things have actually provided a bigger challenge. Lastly, I would speak to oversight in terms of ensuring that there's proper monitoring that are happening and proper investment by Revenue Authority and the Ministry of Mines, so that they are adequately staffed with people that are competent enough to oversee the operations that are happening within the mining sector and give us a better understanding exactly is happening within the sector.
Tell us about the advocacy efforts you've been doing with Oxfam and why you think it is so important and those who live in communities near mining activities should benefit.
Yeah, for over 5 years now, we have been working closely with Oxfam, Publish What You Pay, and other like-minded civil society organizations to advocate for predictable systems that would ensure that communities that are hosting mining investments get to benefit from the resources that they are endowed with. So what we mean is that as taking place in the country, there is need to ensure that we have predictable systems that ensures that resources that are coming from the extractive sector are also being invested in a manner that is bringing benefits to the country.
The Smartphone Network.
The Zambia we want.
I'd love to see a Zambia where developments are taking part in all the parts of the country. Yes, I would love plenty schools as well. A situation where not in a distant category where they reach schools tired, making them unable to learn or to concentrate in classes properly.
Ndifuna kuona ziko lathu la Zambia ndibata mabungwe yonse ya zandale aya yanira kumagulizana
aichatunga twalombako ku government aiwe bachafirishako bati abantu batachitewo meso batachitewo bambita bachitewo mapatsa ambya mubiri
naasakisha kumona Zambia wakonsha kupwika kanwa kikupu.
What Zambia would
bakanyeko ama importini ya finto foka kwati na fofweka fekutwa akwanisha finto kwati kula chita import ama bambi barelete fintu mukati and mule chita support abantu abarelete fintu and mule labako fintu fienu fiemweka
ino kayo muno muzambia mwesu muzambia muchise za Zambia muno ino chinzi chotupengero obya kambo munajana kwamba kuti swebo tuchita depends ma countries abenzuma kuinda kwamba kuti katuchita depend tobeni muno katuli imini nabo ya tobeni.
years of independence, the Great Republic. Every other Tuesday at 09 hours, with the support of Oxfam in Zambia, the Zambia we want.
That's right. This is the Zambia we want. Sorry about that technical hiccup. We're talking about benefits. Could you just recap what you were saying?
So in terms of the benefits, we have been predictable system through which communities that are hosting mining investments can benefit from the exploitation of those resources. It's called a mineral revenue sharing mechanism. This is not something strange. It is something that was provided for in the Mines and Minerals Act before it was revised to what we have now. So we had, there was a provision that was in charge of mines to work closely with the Minister of Finance to ensure that some of the resources getting from the mineral-rich areas, part of those resources are reinvested back into the community so that they can deal with a number of issues, issues related to land degradation, as well as issues related to displacements that happen in some of these communities. So now we have another window of opportunity that has been current process that is mines, where they're in the process of revising the act, and we have further resubmitted that the Ministry of Finance reconsiders and brings back the mineral revenue mechanism so that we can have a system through which benefits are distributed in a better way.
Right. Could tell us, could mining be the sector that rescues Zambia from the current, if so, what should be done, and what roles do you think the government, private sector, and civil society should play to achieve this?
Yes, we think that mining is a significant role in terms of helping this country doldrums that we are experiencing. Not entirely that it would have to fall on the mining sector, but it's a sector that still possesses a great discoveries of gold helps to also bring a sigh of hope that we can actually exploit the opportunities that are existing within the mining sector to ensure that it significantly helps this country to navigate through the economic we might need to a place where we look at the interest of government. We also look at the interest of the private sector, and we come up with interests that are helping to create mutual benefits. That, if you look at the mining sector, there are some things that are happening in the sector that are threatening our ability to actually ensure that the sector thrives. We have spending between with the Zambian government. Some of them are in court, yet to be finalized. We also have challenges if management of God, especially in places like Mwinilunga. You've seen spots of conflict related to the minerals. So we need to also come up with was that the resources are being exploited not only for the benefit of those exploiting, but also for the benefit of the country and its people.
Thank you very much, for that, Isaac. There. Right. This is the Zambia we want.
The Zambia we want.
I'd love to see a Zambia where developments are taking part in all the parts of the country. I would love to see rural areas having plenty schools as well. Would go to school not in a distant category where they reach schools tired, making them unable to learn classes properly.
Ndifuna kuona dziko lathu la Zambia kuti ankhandi mtendere. Kungo yonse ya Zandale aya yanira kumagwirizana.
Ombako ku government ayi babachafirishako bati abantu batachitewo meso batachitewo bambita bachitewo
naasakisha kumona Zambia wakonsha kupwisha ne kuputula majikakanwa kikupu.
What Zambia would you like?
Ba government bakanyeko ama importini ya finto foka kwati na fofueka fekutwa kwanisha finto kwati kula chita import ama banana ile sangwati bambi barelete finto mukati and mule chita support abantu abarelete finto and mule labako finto fienu fiemweka
ino kayo mno muzambia mwesu ino chinzi chotupengera obwe akambo munajana kwamba kuti swebo tuchita depends ma countries abenzuma kuinda kwamba kuti katuchita depend tobeni muno katuli imini nabwe atobeni.
56 years of independence, the Great Republic. Join in the discussion every other Tuesday at 09 hours with the support of Oxfam in Zambia, the Zambia we want.
Afuri ingathandize ziko abantu angachite benefit if only like government ingafake ma policies yamene utati amene ma miners mostly if it's run by private Africa bapanga ma policies utati VAT yakutati izichita benefit country because at the moment nona monga ma VAT enalipira yali very low and they are getting like mwena bwashtika pari the past ndana anabwa gurisa ujati vandeta anabwa amba useka kuti no in a mine inaigula pa cheap price then I'm making a lot of money, so we should learn funiko ponzira pari javina chitika paje and then like kwa enya bwera manje ma mine zenangu ya manje yaoneka there's gold somewhere and yena ngemina mining ya makopa. I think they are even mining some gold somewhere, but only that could be one to monitor what is going on in my mind. So I think if we can also put one to monitor what those mining companies are mining, then I think Chingatandis, because it's like you have got so many minerals over my resources. I mean, I suppose that mining a gold. Most guys they are saying they are mining copper, but when copper liko na ma minerals now. So if only we can work on that one, I think Ingatandis.
This is the Zambia, we want. In case you just tuned in, this is a syndicated broadcast, which is airing live on Capital FM 99.7 and 87.7. Before I go to Mando, Isaac again, from that clip, it's like the gentleman was complaining that there's cheating in terms of, mining, resources. One would claim to be mining, copper, when in the actual fact, there is gold. How do you get around, that, problem?
Well, that is also speaking to the issue of oversight. Have adequate manpower who are technically well trained to ascertain that are being exported, but beyond the quantities, getting to know what exactly is being exported.
Absolutely.
So for that to happen, you need to ensure that you deploy people that are professionally well trained. And besides that, we also need to gravitate towards increasing our level of participation. So what has been happening in our country is that we've been involved in some of these of having some level of shares. But if you look at the level of participation, it's the passive type. So we need to get to a point where we redefine in terms of our level of to an extent that we begin to have a better understanding in terms of how our resources are being that. We have been strong advocates for enhancing our support and promotion of artisanal and small-scale miners. We think that if this country is to get to a point where we meaningfully benefit from the resources, we need to gravitate towards supporting our own mines, and this is something that will happen gradually over a long period of time. But we need to start with our artisanal and small-scale miners, help them to get the right equipment, help them to get the right training, the right skills, so that they can meaningfully begin to exploit some of the resources that we have in our country. Not that we're advocating for takeover of mines. We are saying grow our own.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much, for your input, Isaac. And now, we're going to talk to Mando Chunda, Social and Economic Accountability Youth activist who is currently program officer at Publish What You Pay Zambia. Good morning again, Mando.
Good morning, Ambassador.
I thought the would be confidential.
I thought so too.
Anyway, welcome again. All right, tell us briefly about Publish What You Pay and the work you do.
Well, that Publish What You Pay of civil society organizations that are united by a call for transparency and accountability in how natural resources are governed. So basically, we're trying to look at an extractive sector, a mining sector, where people are benefiting and, in a way that's accountable and that's sustainable, keeping in mind that our resources will not be there forever. You said rightfully at the beginning of the show that for over 100 years we've been mining, but we have no benefit.
Absolutely.
And then going forward another 100 years, are we still going to have these resources? So we have to think about the future and how sustainable this mining can be used to ensure that we also have a sustained economy going forward. We work closely with the EITI here in Zambia. That's the Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, which basically looks at a global standard for the governance of minerals, oil, and gas throughout. So I think going forward, but Publish What You Pay currently in Zambia is a consortium of 30 member organizations.
Right.
And we are in 5 provinces. That's Northwestern, Copperbelt, we have Eastern Province, Luapula, as well as here Lusaka.
Explain the kind of work that Publish What You Pay Zambia and Oxfam have been doing together with other partners on gender transparency and accountability in the mining sector.
Well, Frank, I believe that's a running project that we have with Oxfam in Zambia, and it's Hewlett funded and speaks to in extractives. So that basically is talking about women's involvement in mining as well as women's benefits through either being involved in mining itself or through investments towards women specifically or women empowerment initiatives. We have really been looking at getting women into decision-making spaces. One of the issues that we found when it comes to women involvement in mining is that they're left don't have this information. They do not have a seat at this. mining is a man's world. So when we really come to that discussion, we've been looking at trying to get women into decision-making spaces. Earlier, I talked about the extractive industry and that's an initiative that looks at governance, oil and gas throughout the world. Here in Zambia, we have the EITI in Zambia, which is Zaiti, and out is to ensure that from the point of issuing contracts to the point of collecting revenue from mining, there is transparency and accountability.
Absolutely.
So they report on that year in, year out. And in Zambia, they have a multi-stakeholder group, an MSG, which has government, civil society, as well as the mining companies. And we're trying to get women onto that seat. So that's one of the things that we've been working towards as Publish What You Pay and civil society. Another thing that we have is a campaign. Most successful things, Show Us the Money campaign. So to the principle that we've been mining for a long time. Minerals are finite. One day they're going to finish. So what do we have to show for that? And that's why we're asking, show us the money. Show us where you're taking the money. We're looking at using EITI data. That's the revenue data that's given by the EITI reports every year to ask the right questions. Say, what are you doing with this mining and how is it benefiting the people? We've taken a particular focus to women. So for, I think, most of 2020, mining and women's benefits. And we had a slogan, no handouts, just empowerment. So we're basically looking at using those revenues to empower women and let them fuel diversification. If they cannot be involved in mining directly, at least let them be involved in something that will sustain the entire economy. Will be contributors to that as well.
Very briefly, what is being done to increase the numbers?
To increase the numbers of women in mining, of course, we've started something of an initiative, women knowledgeable about mining. One of the biggest gaps is the knowledge about mining, technical knowledge about mining, as well as the resource to engage. So we're starting an initiative, a platform that will actually try and get women to they can have a voice. In the ASM, I think the artisanal and small-scale mining sector, like Isaac spoke about, we have a lot of women coming and would like them. What we saw, especially during COVID, as the big mines were getting some sort of assistance from the government, the women in mining and women around mining were getting nothing. So policies that will look towards that, especially. And using the Show Us the Money campaign again, just trying to get women to have more investments coming from mining revenues.
Right. As a young activist and working in communities mining, what are the main challenges that women and the youth face?
The first is they're left behind. Mining has always been male dominated, and these are the people who are benefiting the least. But when we go to these communities that we usually work in, especially the rural ones, to also bear the brunt of extractive activities. So basically anything to do with environmental and socioeconomic impacts that are on the negative side there. So we working in these communities are still looking at trying to get more of an investment towards getting more of an investment from mining revenues. Why? Because from that particular land or the area where those people are existing, there are minerals being drawn and a lot of revenue, like you mentioned, but then very little benefit is going back towards them.
Right. Let me see if we can, get Nsama Musonda Keynes, Executive Director for CARE, for Zambia. And Nsama, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Good morning. You decided to stay home and keep safe, right?
Yes, indeed. I should acknowledge this program at a time when the COVID-19 cases are escalating.
Clever
so
one.
For us who are in the rural areas, it's best and also work from home as much as possible.
Excellent. All right, Nsama, tell us a bit about the work that you do on mining and environmental.
Thank you very much. First of all, I should say thank you for the program. To begin with, CARE for Nature Zambia is a member of Publish What You Pay. Like Mando, I said, we partner on the work that they are doing in Luapula. a human rights-based organization. So basically, we promote people's rights to access and utilize fundamental natural resources while taking care of the environment.
Right. From your perspective, and some what measures should be put in place firms environmental damage in mining in our communities?
It is quite worrisome that it is being conducted in environmental degradation. Our mining in Zambia is Mines and Mineral Development Act of 2015. We also have the Environmental Impact Assessment Regulation, Special Instrument 28 of 1997, about a developer conducting environmental impact and social assessment, and also before commencing any type of mining. But unfortunately, what we are seeing, especially among the artisanal and small-scale mining, is that most mining without knowledge of
Right. Finally, in some, what opportunities do you see which women and youth are gain economic benefit from the mining sector while ensuring human and environmental rights?
I must say that at the moment we are so grateful because even working with UNDP under the Development Minerals Program, there is a call for women participation in mining, and it also looks at development minerals, which also include semi and precious stones. So I'm seeing women having an opportunity in other value chains such as cutting and polishing semi-precious stones for citrine, the garnet, and this is even much safer than extracting base metals like manganese or concentrating on copper mining, which we have on board the past 100 years.
Sama, thank you, very much, for your input, and please keep safe.
Thank you for this good program.
Brilliant. That was, Samam Sonderkins. I'm talking to Isaac Maipopo, who's Executive Director for Center for Policy, Trade and Development. And, also Mando Chundaponde, who is, from, Publish What You Pay in Zambia. To call in now and raise any issues related to the mining sector. Call us now on 0974 0974 870 877. Zambia, we want. The number again, 0974 870 877. We brought FM 99.7 and of course Hot FM. Right, before we wait for the callers, Isaac, the right balance between economic benefits from the mining sector and preserving our environment.
Look at the two. It is quite difficult for us to find balance in a bid to minerals and ensure that we get benefits. We end up degrading the environment, but done to ensure that we don't damage the environment completely is to come up with that would help to restore the environment through programs that some of the mining companies social responsibility. They need to come up with direct interventions that are aimed at addressing environmental challenges that extraction of mineral resources. It's also an issue of weighing the benefits. That's why we have institutions like the Zambia Environmental Management Agency, ZEMA, and one of the things that they normally do is to demand assessment is conducted prior to engaging in the investment. So the communities under which these investments are taken, that process seriously and ensure that they provide their concerns. A heated up debate proposal to set up a mining company, a mining act a lot around the effects that was going to have, and eventually the demands of the people prevailed. So those are some of the ways through which we can strike that balance.
Absolutely. 70877 0974 870 This is a program called the Zambia we want. Today we're looking at the mining sector. If you'd like to participate please on that number. Mining capital in many people have the kind of mines. How can address so that we increase participating in
question, and it being capital intensive, primary cause of us having so I believe there's revenues coming. These could be reinvested not just mining itself, to ensure that thriving in their businesses. We have scale mining sector. We have as well coming from that particular sector in which people can be, and there's other things that women could be involved in coming out of the artisanal small scale mining industry, that they could be
call it Zambia we want good your name please.
This is Lusaka.
Louisiana, what is your contribution this morning?
Very interesting discussion from Mr. Mwaipopo and Ms. Mando. And I want to find what his thoughts are on ongoing gold consultations and how they are being undertaken, process, and what would be his recommendation process.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
The ongoing Consultations Act?
Yep.
Okay.
I think she Gold mining.
So, regards to an appraisal and shared a few recommendations on what we might need to do to meaningfully benefit from the exploitation of seen with regard to exploitation of gold is what mentioned. And the last question with the community that resources. So a number of communities Lunga meeting which is going to liberate them from the challenges that they have. We are gathering data from places like some of the people had even stopped farming to start exploiting a god, and they were thinking that it was going to give them the fortunes that they need to come out of poverty. So one of the things that government needs to deliberately do is to engage these communities and explain in detail in terms of what their plans are. What we're seeing is a variance in terms of there are more steps that are being taken in terms of trying to formalize the exploitation of God, in terms of the setting up of the ZAM God, things that are happening at national level. But there's less consultation that is happening that are hosting these resources. As a result, they feel left out, and in feeling left out, some of them have attempted to God is found in an effort that they can so that they can do the processing on their own and maybe be able to get some things. So that needs.
If I can take in another caller. Good morning.
Good morning, Frank.
Yeah. Your name, please?
Robbie.
Yes, Robbie, what is your contribution?
A very fruitful conversation you are having there. And coming as a country, back then we used to rely, and I feel even this time we can try and diversify agriculture and see how it can help us from this economical tantrum we've hit. And these are the kind of programs that government should put emphasis on.
Absolutely.
There are so many places out. Right now I'm calling you from Chelenge.
Fantastic.
Yeah, listening through Mingatenment. And you can tell that this place of minerals, there are trucks moving in this district in and out. So government just needs to tap into the revenue base of the Chelenge and Wapra province.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. For that, we discussing mining this morning. 0974 870 877 0974 870 877. That is like to discussing my. Yep. Can we have another caller, please? Morning.
Good morning, Ambassador.
Morning. Your name, please. What is your contribution this morning?
Yes, for starts, I'd like to just thank you and appreciate that you and your discussion are very fruitful.
Thank you very much. We're humbled.
We need this. Founder and president of Zambian Entrepreneurs Association of Zambia. And looking at what we're discussing, many at more, I'm trying to say, I think it will take us to do things like the panelists are doing. We have an activist, I missed her name. We have another consultant, I missed his name as well.
Right.
But I'm trying to. They're just seated in the corner crying about taxes, about the unleveled level playing field for business. So nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. So let's get together in numbers, and we thank you.